Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you so much for coming to the New Bern Redevelopment Commission meeting. Excuse me. Vice Chair, please stand by. Yeah, I've been talking like this for a week. But anyway, we have, thank you, Commissioner Wallace, if we could have the roll call and our guiding principles by the Vice Chair.
Can we pause 1 second? And Alderman Bengal, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can't see you, but I can hear you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't get the camera set up yet.
Okay, Frank Lopez is with the design team.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Frank
All right.
Lopez is with the architectural design team.
Okay. All right, could we have roll call this year?
Commissioner Lovick, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Tripp, Commissioner Strickland. Here. Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
Commissioner Parham.
Here.
Chair Lee.
Here.
Co-Chair Paragoy is here. Ex officio members Alderman Bengal,
Here.
Alderman Best, Alderman Harris. You have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
Thank you so much. Our guiding principles.
We'll start with the guiding principles over there and make Julius do the first one. And
You can't see any better than I can.
We're gonna make them bigger. We're gonna make them bigger.
Please, past, present, future, equal time.
go ahead, Matt.
Respect others' opinions.
Listen to build consensus.
Share accurate information, public perception.
Stay focused, be action oriented.
Lead,
You got the good one.
please.
Thank
No
you.
glasses too.
Yes, thank you. So, next we, on our agenda, we have the approval of minutes. You have in your packets minutes from April 13th and May the 11th for your approval. You had opportunity to read them and any questions, comments, or
Madam Chair, I have read the minutes and I find no issues with them, so therefore I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2022 meeting and the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Redevelopment Commission.
Second.
second. All right. Questions, Lisa? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Madam Chairman, minutes, are they sent by email?
Yes, they were in two separate emails.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't receive none of them.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
thank you.
all right. We will check on that, sir. Okay, all right. Do we have any public comment tonight? Limited to 4 minutes per person. Any public comment tonight? Yes, sir. Give your name
I don't know.
and minutes.
I don't know how you're. Are we supposed to use your mics too?
Yes, please.
Oh, Lord.
Just go ahead and
Here you go.
All right.
Just push the button in.
Are you on that?
Have a seat. Except
I'm at the cool kids table. Good evening. It's Mike Williams. I'm with Habitat for Humanity, Craven County. Thank you for giving me my 4 minutes to make my public comments. First comment is for those of you who don't know, this is my last meeting as the Director of Habitat for Humanity, but it's going to be the beginning of my next meeting as a regular public person involved in the redevelopment of the focus area of the Redevelopment Commission, and I will continue to do as much public service as I can. And that's my first comment. My second comment is actually a complaint, and I am not one to complain, but as the Director of Habitat for Humanity, we've, over the past however many years the Redevelopment Commission has been in existence, worked hard to forge a partnership between the work that we do and the Redevelopment Commission. I know Reggie Jones, who's not here tonight, has done a ton of work in the healthcare or the health center that we're trying to get for the greater Duffyfield community. Habitat has been a partner with Reggie from the day I walked here into the streets of New Bern. However, in Dr. Livingston's letter that he submitted to the Redevelopment Commission, he indicated the partnership that he has with Habitat for Humanity. In the edits that were done, Habitat was taken off, which is to us, hopefully it was just a mistake, but if it wasn't, I am really disappointed in the Redevelopment Commission. I want that on record, because if there's one thing that we are focused on, it is working with everyone in the community. And to have us removed from Dr. Livingston's letter and completely omitted from the presentation that was given to the Board of Aldermen last month is a total disrespectful slap in the face for all the work that we've done over the 30 years in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for all the work that you've done with Habitat. Housing does matter. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Our next agenda item is agenda item 3, consideration of a resolution to recommend upset bid for 1113 Raleigh Street, and the request is from Mr. Benjamin, and Mr. Benjamin is here tonight to make that request in person. Mr. Benjamin.
Good evening.
Evening.
As stated, my name is Robert Benjamin, and I'm a longtime resident of New Bern and Duffyfield. I was raised in the Duffyfield community. I am interested in the property at 1113 Raleigh Street. Basically, I own several properties there on Raleigh Street. I own 1111 and 1115. And 1113 is right in the middle of those two. Some years ago, I made a proposal to Mr. Cleveland Johnson, who owned that property, but his health failed, and he ended up passing away before we were able to finish the transaction. The reason I want to get this property is I'm not really looking to build on the land, but I do want to try to use the land. It's a very small piece of land, property. I'm already maintaining it, keeping it maintained, grass cut, keeping it cleared in that aspect. But I basically want to use that property as basically a recreation type area for both the residents of 1111 and 1115. They get out there every now and then and throw barbecue, feast, or something like that, just gather there in the community. And so I just want to try to see if I can't obtain the property for that purpose.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
The one thing that we've been trying to do within the community, Duffyfield, is make sure that vacant lots stay clean and maintained and not become depositories for junk materials and junk cars, things of that nature. Recreational use, I think, would be wonderful, but I want to make sure that and I will propose this later, that we put deed restrictions on the property that say they can be used for passive recreation, as you're requesting, but also that it may not become a depository for unusable vehicles or equipment. Would that be a problem for you?
Yes, sir. I wholeheartedly agree. As I stated, I own other properties up there, and again, I just want to have a good image for Duffyfield. I mean, that is my home. You know, like I said, I grew up there, and I own other properties there, so I'm in full agreement. Maintain.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission?
That property is jointly owned, is it not? It's Craven County? No, it's not. It's strictly
No,
owned by the commission.
Yes,
That's
it
correct.
is.
So it allows us to do that.
Before we vote, I'd like for the Attorney Mosley, if she would give us the protocol for what we need to do as far as Mr. Benjamin purchasing the property.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. This property that Mr. Benjamin is inquiring about, located on Raleigh Street, is a property owned outright by the Redevelopment Commission. So there is no request that needs to be made of the county. The general statutes do outline that the Redevelopment Commission has the authority to sell property, but it has to do it through the upset bid process, very similar to what the Board of Aldermen does. So in that instance, Mr. Benjamin would make a formal offer to purchase, he would pay a deposit, and then upon receipt of that offer to purchase and deposit, you then can vote to initiate the upset bid process. That's not necessarily a lengthy process, but it requires publication and an opportunity for other bidders. If Mr. Benjamin, at the end of that process, is the final highest bidder, then the Redevelopment Commission could execute a deed to Mr. Benjamin and or his wife for this particular property. As you will also note, the statutes require that any sale of property owned by the Redevelopment Commission has to be approved by the Board of Aldermen. So bear that in mind. So the process looks something like this. Mr. Benjamin proposes his idea. The housing work group determines whether Mr. Benjamin's proposal is consistent with the redevelopment plan and whether any conditions might be appropriate. Mr. Benjamin can then make an offer to purchase and pay the deposit. You can vote to initiate the upset bid process. If Mr. Benjamin is the highest final bidder, then you can seek approval of the sale from the Board of Aldermen. If the Board of Aldermen approve the sale, then you can convey the property to Mr. Benjamin with those restrictions.
Where in that process does the establishment of value come into play?
Mr. Benjamin would make an offer, and he would offer what he believes is a fair purchase price. Generally, the Board of Aldermen in this type of circumstance will require at least 50% of the tax value. But certainly, you all can adopt your own rules, but that has been consistent across the city in the past.
But
As a
again,
minimum bid.
we can establish what we were willing to sell that for as a base price for the property.
You could, or you could establish a minimum threshold for properties in general. And if Mr. Benjamin's offer to purchase is consistent with that minimum, then you can entertain it further.
Okay.
Okay, and so tonight we do have the offer to purchase here. As I told Mr. Benjamin, he has to come up with that final price, and so he can take the offer to purchase with him. But we can sign, or you can authorize me to sign the resolution after he makes that offer and pays the deposit with the city clerk. Am I correct? Or did I
I'm
miss
not
it?
sure if our electronic audience heard you, so if you can repeat that, please, Madam Clerk.
The fleshy part of your finger. There you go. Good. You're at the top.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I talked to Mr. Benjamin. He knows that he can make an offer on the property. We have an offer here he can take with him, and once he takes that down to City Hall and pays, his deposit, that you authorize me to sign the resolution.
I think one consideration that Commissioner Paraguay was suggesting is that this commission probably needs to establish what the minimum bid would be that they would accept.
Mm-hmm.
So you can follow what has consistently been the city's policy, or you can adopt a policy of your own as for what the minimum bid should be.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just to kind of pose the question, as a general rule of thumb, if we go with that 50%, are we going to have issues if we come up down the road for any particular parcel and say 50% is not enough?
You don't have to.
Well,
Legally, are we setting a precedent? Is kind of the direction I'm going out with that.
the good thing about it is that's a minimum bid, and the statutes give public bodies the discretion to reject any offers. So if someone, you know, if there's a multi-million-dollar piece of property in the redevelopment area and somebody, you know, offers half of the value and that bid, that offer is not acceptable to you, you don't have to accept it by statute.
Just wanted to confirm as much, thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
So I think the answer, one question that I have, just for purposes of the record, is what policy does this committee or this commission want to adopt as it relates to the minimum bid that's acceptable for the upset bid process? Do you want to use 50% of the tax value or some other analysis?
I mean, I'm just one vote, but it makes sense to me to be consistent with what the city's done for a number of years. In the grand scheme of things, you use that 50% as a general rule of thumb as a starting point.
Is that
You want more?
I think that we need to look at it.
it's your brain? I don't want you to have to repeat it, man.
I'm not sure I went back here. From the standpoint of the redevelopment commission, I really do look at it more as our base should be published tax value as our minimum bid. That's my personal opinion.
Mr. Walker, thoughts?
Mike?
Hey, I was actually along the same lines as Commissioner Strickland, that go with the precedent that's been set of the city of the half of the tax value.
Mr. Wallace?
I just got a question. Is that the precedent that the city set for 50% of the tax value? Is that?
As the initial bid.
Initial.
Initial. That doesn't mean that a person has to offer 50% of the tax value. They can make an initial offer in excess of 50%, but no bids would be entertained to start the upset bid process that are below that 50% of the tax value threshold.
Are we compelled to start at 50%?
No.
And we do tax value as my colleagues?
I do not think that there's a statute that says what the required initial bid must be.
I'd also like to go back to a couple months ago when we actually exchanged property on Green Street with Mr. Newkirk. We had the properties, our property as well as his appraised to follow protocols. And the appraisals were at tax value or more on both of those lots. And done by an independent appraiser.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm green. All right. I do want to let the record show that we are not opposed, just because we're talking about tax value and all that, I don't want you to take it as we're opposed to you purchasing it. We just want to make sure we get fair market value. So I just want to make sure we got it on record. This isn't anything to you. We're just kind of handling business in the open meeting law.
Okay. Okay. So, did you have questions?
Mr. Parker?
Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
I personally don't agree with the tax value. The reason I would say no, because there's some properties that we're trying to get someone to buy. And for them to buy, sometimes the tax value is too much. So there's a possibility that someone will come in and can improve the property, but use the extra money instead of doing the tax value, use whatever extra money they got to develop the property. So I would vote against the tax value.
Madam Chair, since there seems to be some robust deliberation on this issue, it may be appropriate before moving forward with accepting any offers for there to be a precedent or a policy adopted by this commission on this particular issue, and that may be ripe for discussion tonight.
Where my mind, where my mind went kind of hearing some of the comments, I mean, as the bean counter in the room, I'll never have a problem with getting every last dollar we possibly can, but I can also appreciate the value of allowing someone to invest. So maybe if we're I mean, just throwing an idea out there, if we're in a situation where someone is merely buying a lot to have that lot there, we go with a tax value ask, and if they're asking for a lot to make improvements on, or to build something on with the intent of doing that, with the stated intentions of doing that, and I know we can't bind it, that there'd be more flexibility in the pricing. We use 50% on that to allow them to have more funds to make improvements on things.
I mean, because we're at a point where we got properties and nothing's happening to it. So the best thing to do is make it affordable and accessible for people to get the property.
Okay.
I don't want our price ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any trouble with that, and maybe the thing that we look at is that one of the determining factors that we have to deal with is, can we utilize it? Because if it's in the floodplain, we can't do anything with it. Maybe that becomes part of our determination of, I don't know if you can put that into policy, but if it's in the floodplain where we can't do anything with it, that it's a one criteria for pricing, but if it's a usable, buildable lot, then it is a different price criteria.
Alderman Bingle?
Yes, I have a question for Attorney Mosley. Ms. Mosley, don't we have the ability as the commission to put conditions on a lot, such as something has to be built on that? I heard the statement by Commissioner Strickland, and I was unsure about that.
Yes, ma'am. Statutorily, the Redevelopment Commission can impose restrictive covenants that run with the land that are reasonable and objective, such as a structure must be erected within X number of months, that a lot cannot be used for open storage, those types of conditions. And I will add just one consideration for you all to deliberate upon. If you're thinking about creating a matrix where if this, then this value, you might want to consider how staff may apply that, because people may be calling and wanting to inquire and want to place offers, and doing those types of calculations and checking the maps, and that may be somewhat cumbersome for staff to navigate. Not saying that staff can't, but that those types of complexities could create opportunities for confusion.
And we'll continue working on processes and protocols to make sure that, we don't miss any steps, that we don't, hold our citizenry waiting a long time to get this done. So want to make it as simple as we can. So what is your...
Yeah, I mean, just to comment, it takes all of about 15 seconds to pull that map up right there.
Yeah.
And with the flood map on it, figure that out. I mean, no offense to staff, but I know Alex can do that probably in less than 15 seconds.
I'm sure she does it in her sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure she does too.
So, okay, so what is your pleasure?
Well, I truly hate to belabor the matter and delay things, but I'd be remiss not to point out that there are multiple commission members missing from the discussion. So I'm hesitant to set policy going forward without their input whenever there's 3 of the commissions here. So I don't like kicking the can.
Yeah, and could we make the motion to refer this matter to the housing work group to come up with a policy to present at our next meeting for approval, and therefore we can incorporate all the things that we're discussing, or we completely ignore them, or whatever. And again, I think what Tabari said was the most important for Mr. Benjamin, is we're not arguing about you acquiring the property. I think we can work something out there with you. We understand what your desired use is, and I think we stated some of the our position about the use of the lot, and seemed to be compatible with what you're desiring to do. So this is more of an internal little policy issue for us that we will get worked out and have in place for the next meeting to not hold you up any longer. That would be my recommendation that if it's acceptable to the rest of the commission.
Also, it might be a possibility too that we are given information on how the city sells, how they've been selling property, so we know that we're somewhat in line. So that when we get ready to present to the city, it's not like, fighting, you know, we kind of go along with what's already in place, not try to create something new. But, you know, be in line with what it is so that when we do go to the city, it's an easy thing to do. So we may need that information as to how the city and what their stuff is in writing, so we're seeing. I mean, you gave us some information, but for me, I just like to read it and say, okay, fine, this is what they do. All right, let's go from here. And then pass it on to the housing group, let the housing group see how they do it, and then come back with a recommendation. Sound? Yeah.
Okay.
Not to belabor the point, but I do want to suggest or recommend that we actually, this group, the redevelopment commission, because we have new members, actually have a onboarding session where we can apprise our new members of the other goals that we have going on and why this topic came up, as we need to get as much funds as we can because we have other things going on.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure we get that on the record. We do need to have a meeting so we can understand what each other are doing.
Yeah, we had that conversation about 15 minutes ago.
Yes, we do.
Orientation program.
Yeah, orientation, we call it onboard now.
On board, okay, all right. Okay, well, Mr. Benjamin, I do apologize. It looks like we're going to another month. I thought we had it all worked out, but we will put you again on the agenda, and you will not have to, you know, he should not have to come back. It's just a policy thing, and then I will contact you. But there is no issues in it as far as that's concerned. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wanting to know if I could ask this question. As far as the property is concerned, in that area, is that not considered a flood zone? Because as I'm understanding, if it's a flood zone, we're not able to build on it anyway. Is that considered a flood zone?
Right? Yeah. You can build on it.
Yes, you can build on it. You just have to elevate it above the flood zone. And that's only if I see that it's only a portion of the property that is in the flood zone.
I think the lot's only 30 feet wide. I don't know if you could do that.
So, yes, you build on taller footings. So am I reading this properly? The blue area is the 100-year flood zone?
Yeah.
So if he built in the yellow area and he isn't proposing to build anything, but if he were to, as an example, let's say, he could build in the yellow and make sure that the building does not touch the blue zone.
Right.
And then there's no requirements. If it did touch the blue zone, then you would have to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation for the first floor, which depends. I'm not sure exactly what this base flood elevation is here, but let's just say it's 8 feet, 9 feet.
9 feet.
It would be 2 feet above. That would be
30 feet wide. So
right.
the lot is only 30 feet wide.
Yes. So because it's a legal lot, you would be allowed to build. You would get variances otherwise if necessary.
Well, but the redevelopment commission has specific setbacks for their building, which are in the redevelopment area supposed to be on. Is 5 feet sideline setback. So any structure that he would build on this lot, if he had, or anybody could build on this lot, would have to be no more than 20 feet wide to meet the redevelopment commission building guidelines.
Okay.
Sure. Just to go one step, I mean, I'm sorry that we're belaboring this, even though you're not proposing a building at all. But then if, suppose it were 20 feet is perhaps buildable, as you know, it is physically possible to put a 20-foot wide house on the lot. But if it were too narrow to do that, then they would be able to apply for a variance.
Okay. All right.
it's not, because it's an existing condition, that's not any fault of their own having created.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, if it's the inclination of this commission to table item number 3 until next month, you would need a motion.
Well, weren't you suggesting perhaps a vote that would be conditioned upon the information by the housing? No, okay.
Something else now. Could we get a motion to table it? So we can-
I'll make a motion to table this agenda item until the next meeting, in which time the housing work group will present protocol for addressing property values in the redevelopment commission area.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I say.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you, thank you. I'll contact you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
At this time, if at all possible, I would like to move the items up on the agenda. I think some people have to get back to Raleigh. I'm not sure what the weather's going to be. I know it's supposed to be some storming and hailing a little bit later. This has already done it. I don't think so.
Number 4, you're free.
So, number
4 is one of those presentations.
let me have a consensus. I need to get a vote for that to move it to the agenda.
Consensus, Commissioner Fox.
All right, a consensus to move the agenda around.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we will take item number 4 and item number 6 that we're going to be moving around. So items 4, okay.
And Margaret.
You want us here to take?
Yeah, make
Yes,
Make
please. Please.
Activate the microphones.
And it is the Duffyfield Stormwater project. It is just an update for us, so we'll know what's going on in the redevelopment area. And then if we have any questions, but since we have so much on the agenda, unless we really do have some questions, we really want just them to give an update.
And I have a question for Alderman Bengal. Can you see the illustration on the screen, or do I need to share my screen?
You need to share your screen, I don't see
Okay.
anything.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, how do we get back to that? There we go.
Just as big as that green one. Green one.
Oh, thank you. It's bright green.
It is. My favorite color.
Okay, now you see it? Alderman Bengal, now you see the image?
I do, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
All right, thank you.
And don't watch that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, am I on?
When it's green, blinking green.
Good, you good.
Good, all right. This thing is not built for the colorblind, I tell you what. So good evening, my name is Bob Taylor, I'm with Withers Ravenel. And so you guys invited me here to, and Margaret Shields is also here with us. We're probably going to tag team to describe how we are trying to finance all of these improvements. But I know what you guys have asked me to do is kind of describe what's happening with the Duffyfield Stormwater project. But we're going to also just tack on to that just a brief update on some of the other activities we're doing as well. Now, this is a presentation put together by so it's a combination effort of our stormwater team and our Parks and Rec team. For the most part, the stormwater team, they're doing the engineering on this, and so they're doing the heavy lifting at this point. But the Parks and Rec team is working in close conjunction with them because we want this to really go hand in hand, and we'll explain that as we go through the slides here. But I also want to make a disclaimer, I am not an engineer, so I'm the messenger on this. I'm going to do my best to explain everything, all the technical aspects as, from a 20,000-foot view as best I can. If you guys do have technical questions about the project, I will be glad to relay them. But for now, we really just want to give you an update as to where the project is.
Yes.
So what we have here on this first slide is just, you can see where the site is highlighted, and this is just to give you a sense of where it is situated, in the greater Duffyfield neighborhood. Matt, you can go to the next
You
slide.
can explain the light blue area?
Which one's the light blue?
Turquoise.
Yeah, turquoise area around.
He's colorblind. He can't see.
The watershed area.
Oh, thank you. Right. So the idea is that this is going to be a flood mitigation project, and so what we're trying to do is capture as much of the runoff in the area that drains into this project site. So the design of the project is all about capturing that rainwater and funneling it into these constructed wetlands.
Okay.
Yep. So here's a view of the city-owned property in the project area. And there's actually, you'll see what's described here is phase 1 and then phase 2 through 4. Phase 1 is, let's call it 90% complete. And this was basically a detention pond that was created. And that was really the first step that needed to happen, right? We needed a place for the runoff to go. And from this spot, now again, you can see that it's designed to hold a certain volume of water. And what's going to happen from that spot is it's going to be pumped over and eventually over to the Jack Smith Creek wetlands area on the other side of the tracks. But quick footnote on this, the original plan was for that detention pond there to go directly underneath the railroad. That aspect, pun intended, was derailed. So currently what is in process right now is designing a force main to go up to the East Rose Street, that detention basin there, and then be pumped over into the Jack Creek.
At the entrance to the cemetery.
Yeah, the cemetery. And so that's being designed right now, is for a pipe to run from that detention pond, just basically up Rose Street, to transfer that water in that way. Because we couldn't just do it, from under the railroad. So just want to let you guys know that that's why we're at the 90% point. I think, 6 months ago, we had hoped that this would have been 100% complete, this phase.
And as far as that goes, update from this morning, talking to George Childs. He indicated that we have the funds to do that, and however, there is probably a 12-month backlog or supply chain issue with pumps and pipes.
Yeah. 2 more months.
Yeah.
Is that like the high end?
Maybe, he may be, padding it so that, people aren't disappointed when it's 12 months instead of 6 or 7, who knows?
Actually, I think that's about what we're hearing too.
12 months.
Yeah.
It is a backlog.
Wow.
Okay, can I ask a question? You're gonna take the water here that was originally to go under the railroad track.
Correct.
And now you're gonna dump it up at the existing lagoon area where there is the existing pump station.
Correct.
Which, so you're adding water to that system there. Are we taking measures to change the pumping system and the pumping rate and everything? Because, I mean,
Yes.
that has a hard time in keeping up with just the Duffyfield Canal water,
Yes.
let alone anything we're adding from this.
So I believe they're pumping it into the area just on the other side of the road from that basin. So essentially right next to the railroad tracks, so that it doesn't add to the basin
lagoon.
itself, and it doesn't have to go under the road and through the gates just to get to the culvert that goes underneath the railroad tracks there.
But again, you're adding volume there that was not considered in the original sizing of the culverts under the railroad.
Right.
Or anything else there, so it's this.
Right, and at that location, there is quite a large culvert plus a second one. And so I guess and I'm not the engineer either.
That's the engineer.
They must have figured that that's more reasonable than the alternatives. And at the same time, they are now also looking to upsize that pump station there at the lagoon or whatever, what you're calling it, detention basin.
And I believe, without the improvements already done through phase one, I mean, this water was basically going to that location anyway.
Okay.
But it was on the other side of the railroad tracks when it was doing it.
Right.
That's the only way to get to the Jack Smith wetland is along the railroad track up there.
So the watershed we pointed out was just for this area. But this area also, prior to, was draining down to that very same location in front of the cemetery anyway. So this is actually reducing it from flowing all the way there to get there. It's pumping it out just along the pipe.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, all right, I appreciate it. Might be easy, if you go to the next slide.
Oops. There's the watershed again. and all the
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah, so, so again, this outlines the watershed that's draining into this spot. And, so again, it's all about trying to get the runoff off of those streets and off the property, and into those vacant lots, and then, helping it move along. Matt, next slide. So I think this is probably the best visual. So you can see there, phase one, the detention pond. You can see that this is what it looks like with the water, right? So.
And this is how big it was before.
Yeah. So we increased the volume there, right? So we're already like mitigating a good amount of runoff just by expanding that pond.
Wow.
But as you can see here too in these visuals, the idea is to construct. If you remember those previous slides, you see it's a series of vacant lots, putting them together and then putting, actually constructing, these constructed wetlands, these depressions that as it rains, they will fill. So they'll fill with water, and then they'll trickle out, naturally or more slowly. You're also creating a lot of area for infiltration, and in that way you're really helping with the flood mitigation, through both just slowing the water down and letting it infiltrate, through the ground. So not only are we, you can see here that it's going to provide 2.27 million gallons of storage for rainwater. It should really help mitigate your 2-year, 5-year storms. Potentially up, you're actually going to see an impact of the 10-year storm. Trick is, for a 10-year storm, you're still going to see some flooding on the streets, some flooding in properties, but now it's gonna dissipate. That water is going to no longer stand for days on end. It's gonna, that standing time of a 10-year storm is gonna be significantly reduced, through this project. Next slide.
There's also water quality improvements.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
So it reduces pollutants.
right now, you've got nothing in this area but sheet flow. So there's no, any, contamination that's picked up in that rainwater or that runoff. It's just going straight out to, Jack Smith Creek. And so what these wetlands will do will really help filter out some of those contaminants.
Okay.
I think the next slide demonstrates how that happens. Yeah. So this is a cross section of what those wetlands are going to be like. So there's natural vegetation that grows in there. Like I said, we've got infiltration, substrate at the bottom of it to help the water infiltrate through the soils. That's going to, and then the plants, the natural plantings, are going to really help filter out the contaminants, and so you're going to get substantial water quality benefits from that. You can see this is going to be done by design. EPA puts out a stormwater manual that actually describes exactly what how to construct a wetlands and the type of materials to put in it, and then the type of benefits that you're going to receive, from those wetlands. And so this is purely by design. Next slide. And so this is a show. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but this kind of shows the different aspects of the full project. So you're going to have wetland areas. The other benefit we're actually removing pavement, some limited pavement that's going to be removed as part of the development of these stormwater parks, if you will. And now remember how I said that our stormwater team, we're doing the engineering and design, but they're working very closely with our Parks and Rec team, because when this is done, like this is going to be a park. We want this to be a community amenity for not just residents of Duffyfield, but residents of all of New Bern to be able to come and enjoy, to walk around. You saw the constructed wetlands going to have, by design, vegetation growing it, so it's going to be an attractive space. And the idea is that we want it to be a park feature is going to be a huge amenity to the community.
Question?
Yes.
I see where you've got street.
Do your microphone, please.
I see where you got street pavements removed, whatever. And when you're developing this stormwater runoff and everything, is any consideration of curbing and gutters? I mean, curbing helps direct water. Is there any of that in play with this?
Yes. Now, I don't know the details if it's going to be like curb and gutter, but I know that there's going to be stormwater conveyance infrastructure, by design put in to help direct, convey stormwater to this site.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the details on that, but I know that is definitely part of the project.
Thank you.
And so this is kind of a concept visual for when it's all said and done. From bird's eye view, you guys are going to have a park in Duffyfield, but it's also mitigating your storm, flooding. So you got stormwater control measures in place. But again, there's going to be walkways there. Again, depending on community feedback and on designs and what all you want in the park, what all kinds of amenities will be in place there. Might have a gazebo, might have boardwalks, park benches, picnic benches, and whatnot. So, but the idea is it's going to be an attractive space for the residents to go and enjoy. Now, back in November, we had kind of a public information meeting in which we had these displays in which people could kind of, put stickers on the type of amenities that they really enjoyed. But the idea is, again, we're in concept phase for the park, and so these are just ideas to put out there for the type of features that we can have in the park. But you can see, you can have a deck, you can have a boardwalk, you can.
Sorry.
That's about right. You get benches, just open areas, for folks to enjoy. Trails. Thank you. There's also, we want this to be a opportunity for public education and outreach.
Yes.
So we want to incorporate, all kinds of placards and display pieces that are demonstrating that this is a constructed wetland, what the wetland does, the benefits that this is providing, the type of natural vegetation, native vegetation that's growing in there. And again, right now, it's kind of wide open as to what all we would like to put in there, or what the community would like to have in there for those educational components. But that is one of the priorities, is to incorporate that into the park. And similarly, if you want to put playground equipment or other kind of amenities for for recreation, for kids to play, playground, whatnot, those are also up for up for input for what would go in the final design, and also an opportunity to put up public art. That there's going to be opportunity. Again, the idea is that we want this to be a place that the community is going to enjoy, and be a huge amenity to come in and really celebrate what this project is.
Yes.
Because it's going to be planted with native vegetation, it's also going to foster a lot of wildlife habitat. Natural pollinators, birds, definitely different native flowers and plants and whatnot. So now take a look at what these images on the left are going to demonstrating. When this is going to be new, it's not going to be lush. By design, it's going to take a couple of years to really fill in. But when this project, when it matures, I think you'll be very surprised as to how green and how lush these wetlands will be. So, before we go to the next slide, that's the conclusion of the Duffyfield Stormwater project. I think just a quick note, I know Margaret and I tag teamed on this, but we do have funding in hand for the project through the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. We have also applied for grant funding. And we should know the fate of those grants really within the next 2 months. We put in a FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant application. That was submitted back in January. And we should know whether that's going to be funded or not.
$3.5 million.
Yeah. We should know if that's funded either late July, early August.
If we get that, that would totally fund the rest of the project.
Yeah. So we got that. I mean, big thing. That would be a huge win.
It's very competitive.
It's a very competitive project, a very competitive grant program.
Yes.
And so it'd be wonderful to get that, but we think that it highlights exactly what FEMA is trying to incentivize through that program. So we made it a priority to put that application together. But it also turned out that the state had a pot of flood mitigation funding available back in March.
Grants.
This is a grant funding. These were state funds they made available to the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management. So we basically submitted that same grant request to the state. It was, I think,
2.5 million.
2.5 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, and we should know the fate of that very soon.
This
Okay.
month.
Yeah, this month.
Okay, all right. Great, great job. Wow, wow. Wow.
So-
Look, you see Commissioner Wallace here.
I just got a question.
Over here. Yep, because we need to, not hurrying anybody up, but we need to move to our next, Matt needs to get on the road.
Oh, I know.
Yes, Commissioner Wallace.
You said that in your initial, in the beginning of your presentation, you said something fell through. That totally went over my head.
The initial design of phase 1 of that, that storage, that detention pond, phase 1, initially, the initial design was to have the outlet for that go underneath the railroad.
Okay.
And basically railroad said no. So we had to go with the alternative route of just running a force main up Rose Street.
So
That's-
that's caused the delay.
Yeah, and that has caused that project to be delayed. The completion of that project.
Is it possible for you to give an update to the Duffyfield Residents Council?
The same update.
Like, I know you did one in November, but that was extremely preliminary. They didn't even know. But they're asking questions now. I know you're in Raleigh, so do you have someone local that can maybe go over and update them so they can know what's going on?
Yeah.
Couldn't Jordan do that?
Who? Okay.
Couldn't Jordan do that?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. We can ask him.
Okay.
Maybe.
And whoever's gonna do it, I'll get you on the next meeting. All right, because they're asking for it, so let me know and I'll go with you.
Okay.
We'll find that out. Staff will work that out. Right.
Now, I did want to mention that for this project, for phases 2 and 3 and 4, we just had an open house last Tuesday at First Missionary Baptist Church.
Withers was here for that.
And with all the boards and the whole deal, they did presentations. So that was another opportunity for the residents to get that pretty much the same story, but focus more on the wetlands part because they're now doing the design work, the engineering drawings, construction drawings for that.
Right. But
They're at about 30% on that.
yeah, just in the spirit of intentionality. During our listening sessions with the community, this was brought up, that a lot of times these meetings are held, they don't hear about it, they don't what, they have meetings, they have a monthly meeting. I mean, I think we would be remiss if we didn't take 10 minutes to go over there and let them know what we're doing, so they don't, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, no problem. I was just adding that was
Oh, yes,
also
sir.
another option.
Yes, sir.
Another situation that's come up.
Commissioner Wallace, if you also send the commissioner a reminder, so to Jennifer, she can send it out, let the commission know so that everybody can be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Again, Mr. Taylor, thank you so much.
Did you want the update on?
Duffyfield Canal, which
Yeah.
is kind of.
So, we'll be quick.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
We do want to let you guys know that we're also simultaneously looking at some improvements in the Duffyfield Canal. We have funding in hand to do some studies, and we're actually looking to add to that. But if you can see, it might be a little bit difficult to see in this graphic, but you can see that the outline of the watershed that goes through the Duffyfield Canal. And of course, we know that was, a huge problem, during Florence. And, so, it's a huge priority, to look at what kind of improvements can be made there. And so we just want to let you know that is in process.
All right, great.
Although there is a caveat to that, and that is that none of these improvements are going to protect you against another Florence.
Correct.
Not much they can protect us.
That's right.
Now, it will drain it a little faster.
Correct.
But
Okay, that's maybe some help.
it's not what you know.
And I guess
And
the people who had a foot in their house or whatever that might disappear quicker than the last time. But it won't protect them from having the foot in the house to begin with.
But it will be some mitigation.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will handle 90% of all the other storms, because we don't get Florence every time.
Okay.
So,
And then, the last piece we just wanted to update is that, some of my other colleagues at Withers Avenue now are looking at doing a public engagement process, for, helping communicate and educate folks on the, resilience plan that was, passed and approved by the city of New Bern.
Yes.
So that's going to be a process, it's going to be unfolding, but we wanted you guys to know that that is something that's happening. And, so.
Thank you. A lot of movement, yes.
A lot of movement.
Thank you.
I'm glad y'all saved the tough questions.
Thank you so much. We need to transition to item 6, presentation from North Carolina State University staff and students on housing models. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all so much, and we're looking forward to continuing to working with you and helping you with public engagement as well.
hang around for let me inject that. You can go ahead and do your intros, I guess, if you want.
Just to say everybody that I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah.
This one here. What button do I push? That one?
It's on.
Oh, it's up. Thank you.
Not anymore, that's all.
There you go.
Good. That's an important first step. Anyway, thanks so much for having me tonight. I was originally going to be on the screen, and I like it better than I see everybody in person sitting around a table. I don't know about all of you, but I'm a little tired of these screens. Looking at that Jeopardy board.
You're going to have to tell me which one
Oh, yes, I'm very sorry.
Wait, no, is it? Sorry, there you go.
Yeah, so it should be there. Look under New Bern and a PowerPoint. Yeah, top one, right there. If that's a PowerPoint.
Bern,
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes I have it set to go like 200%, and then everything is too big. But then you can read it. There we go.
Go ahead, full screen. And Matt, do you want, it'd be possible for me to drive the slides?
I'm going to have to do the
Got
share.
a lot of clicks.
Oh, I am sharing. Would you like?
Can I drive the slides? Is that possible? Just right click?
Yeah. Experiment. Find that.
Nope, not that.
I think it's click.
Left click.
Left click.
There you go. Yeah. So that was right click.
All right, we'll leave that up then. So, okay. So last semester we ran a graduate student design and research project focused on affordable and resilient housing for the New Bern community. And this was funded by the NCC grant and Water Resources Institute. And we worked with the city of New Bern. Actually, as Matt knows, through a number of folks in New Bern throughout the semester. And I'd just like to say that we were absolutely delighted, continue to be delighted to support as best we can the city's efforts to rebuild the physical community of Duffyfield for long-term residents and its next generation. And we want to thank everybody who's participated in the project. I just want to mention that projects like this, we really appreciate being invited to do projects like this because it really enriches the education of our students. And we're in the business of educating future leaders of the profession, so we want to thank you for that. There's the students there down in that photograph. So So the project was also informed by a number of visiting experts that we really depend on. David Maurer, architect in Raleigh, who is the most significant firm doing affordable housing in the Raleigh area. Byron Mouton, who runs Urban Build down in Tulane, and David Perks, who runs the Mississippi State Gulf Coast Community Design Studio. These are two professors and builders whose careers are really absolutely focused on building in flood-prone areas.
Tulane's in New Orleans.
Yeah, and David Perks started his work post-Katrina on the Gulf Coast. So we really benefit, and they're still on board if we need them. Of course, right in the College of Design, we have folks like Andy Fox, David Hill. They run the Coastal Dynamics Design Lab, and then Gavin Smith, who's a professor of landscape and environmental planning. So we really benefit from folks who do work that to a much greater degree than we do. And we, as best we could, we really also tried to be informed by the history of the Duffyfield community and its rich history as a vibrant and resilient African-American community that has withstood racial, economic, and land use discrimination, and more recently, as you are all familiar with, periodic flooding, disinvestment, and population and housing loss. Now, in addition to these rich areas, we are also informed by city plans, including this one here, you know these, and of course the redevelopment plan, as best as we were able to. We started the semester with team research, which you can see up on the board there. And out of that research, actually, that was about a 4-week project process, and you can view the video outcomes. It's about 10, 12, 15-minute videos that are designed to be very accessible, and they're on the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities website. And then following that, students turn to the design of housing prototypes through demonstration projects on scattered sites throughout the Duffyfield neighborhood. So, and that's their demonstration projects. Don't take the sites too seriously. Right? We tend to choose those, honestly, as ways to demonstrate particular aspects of the project and also what will help the student's education best as well. So, what do we look at? The projects included mostly single-family housing. That was a request of our New Bern partners. That explored context-responsive strategies, disaster response modules, incremental build-outs, and innovative materials and construction methods. Individual projects also included, what we call missing middle housing, townhouses, duplexes, etc., townhomes, and also accessory dwelling units. And all considered the affordable, resilient, and sustainable housing strategies, and many took on the challenge of building above the freeboard line in flood-prone areas. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And following today's review, we'll produce a final report. Right, we'll provide this to the city. The public, the project funding will allow us to do this, and it will document the project's historical, regulatory, and design research. Right, I'm just going to give you an introduction today, and include design guidelines illustrated by precedents and selected examples of student projects. And it's the second that I'm going to briefly outline in my comments to you tonight. Got it?
The screen was paused.
Oh, it was? Okay. And I look forward to your input as time allows. I really appreciate that because we have not completed the report yet. And we want the report to be useful to all of you. That's why we're doing this. Now, you all know, right? The amount of vacant lots in Duffyfield with a significant amount right, owned by the city or county, and the preponderance of damaged or substandard housing is a significant problem, but we also see it as an opportunity. The substantial loss of housing, however, is also a loss of neighborhood character that presents real challenges regarding how to rebuild in ways that is sympathetic with the history of with the built history of the community while representing a new future. And the I'd say the redevelopment of Duffyfield is an interrelated planning, finance, and design challenge that consequently should incorporate a broad range of strategies. So that's what I'm going to just introduce tonight. So let's take a look at some of these. Okay, first is, you can see, is the context and character. Houses should respond to the historical and existing context through scale, form, materials, details, and color, including porches. We notice a lot of horticulture and defined front yards. So this side is actually around Elm at Darst and West Streets. And you can see down lower there is a 2000, from 2007, street view from Google. I don't know if you know, you can go back in time in Google, go into the professor's time machine. And that's an empty lot now, as you know. So Clayton, who did this project, was very interested in being able to respond to the historical context of sites like this. This is Raleigh project, and this is an infill project also on Elm Street, in which, so here's what Raleigh did with his project. So there's what we call the dwell house version, right? And then there's a more traditional version. And this is a bit of the way you have a playbook. So same plan, same form, same massing, same materials, but different style, right? And that's what you're trying to demonstrate in projects like this.
And in this case, the one on the right is an existing house.
Yeah.
And the one in between the two tall ones, the one-story one, is also an existing house.
Yeah, the one, it's only in the middle that's new. Raleigh went, instead of doing photographs, he went and reconstructed the house. It's as best he could. Okay, streetscapes, right? We know how much need there is for streetscapes in Duffyfield, with all of the elements of successful streetscapes that should be considered. And so this is a prototypical one that Gayatri put together. And in the report, we'll try to use precedents as well. This is Cook Street in Raleigh. David Maurer designed this quite a few years ago now, where it's not exactly the conventional verge, sidewalk, and so forth. They had opportunities to create a more generous public way and create sort of identity on the street in doing so. All right. The challenge of building above the flood line and freeboard line, we really took on as well. How to mitigate that. In many cases, projects we're dealing with a 9-foot height off of sea level. So we looked at ways. This is Harish. He looked at a number of sites up in Zone 3. Right? We looked at those 3 focus areas. So you can see that's a 2-tiered deck. Pretty simple move in some ways, right? So the first tier is sort of typical porch height, and then you get up the next set of steps to the other level. But there's examples. This is actually from the Tulane Design Build, the Urban Build Group, that done some pretty innovative ways of mitigating that, the height that you have to get up off the street. So we'll be putting together some documentation of ways of doing that. You can see a little bit better in this prototype that Harish put together. Disaster responsive housing, right? This is housing that can be rapidly deployed, right? As soon as the flood waters recede, which is models for this where you can take a module that's in many cases pre-constructed, as you get it on the site very quickly so that the building owners can live there while their house is being rebuilt, or if the house can't be rebuilt, that house could be built out over time. You can see this whole series of build-outs
On the left side.
on the left-hand side from the very top, the basic module, to ultimately a 3-bedroom house. And this models for this is a group down in BC Workshop, down in Dallas in DC, and they've done exactly this kind of disaster.
So that green
response
one
housing.
is buried inside the one on the right.
Exactly right. That's the module that was delivered on site, and then it's built out over time. They call it the Rapido for obvious reasons. Yeah. Yeah. Also, site planning, clustering housing. This is do a lot of that. You see a lot of that done where you cluster housing to preserve open space instead of spreading out the way we do most suburban subdivisions. Pretty simple idea. And then this student actually, thought about, constructed wetlands and playground and parks and so forth as part of this type of housing development. We also looked at affordable land use models in terms of things like community land trusts. Community land trusts or other land ownership models can reduce housing costs by commonly, commonly owning the land, right? And then it's only the units themselves that get bought for. So that you're avoiding that as an upfront cost. So we've got some models for that. These are also known as cottage courts. So not all cottage courts make use of that economic model. It's also a design model where you cluster the housing to preserve community open space, which you see in the plan there on the left. And these are very popular, growing in popularity, cottage courts, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. So we'll provide some examples like that. Zoning reform. I know you've already upzoned some of Duffyfield. I'm a big zoning reform person. I've done some of that rather loudly in Raleigh. So that to encourage gentle density through compact development, reducing parking and all those kind of requirements and so forth. And so this is a project that I did. This is up in Zone 3. These are small duplexes organized a common courtyard with the ability in the ground floor to have some pop-up business spaces and to reintroduce some sort of like home business, neighborhood retail opportunities, because right near Main Street, and we know that that still has some commercial and could probably have some more as well. Also affordable housing types, right? Missing middle, multi-generational, triplexes, quads, cottage courts. In this case, Brianna looked at pairing a main house with an accessory dwelling unit, and she obviously took on the challenge of building above the freeboard line. And there's a lot of advantages. Don't get me started on ADUs. I'm a big proponent of them. But Brianna got very interested in this as well. Is first of all, you can see on the lower part there, these are configurations for different site types, and then the adaptability of housing like this, where you can, if you're just starting out, right? You own both, and you rent out the ADU, right? You have kids, they grow up, they become boomerang kids, they come back and they stay in the ADU, etc. Right? There's a lot of good research out there, and the need for adaptable and flexible housing. I like to put it so you can trade up and trade down without moving out.
You can retire into the ADU.
That's right.
And then one spouse passes away. And
yeah. Or you
unit.
you live in the main house and your caregiver lives in the ADU.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. Space efficiency. That's a big one with affordable housing. Basically, it's a square foot cost, reduce the square footage, but it shouldn't be at the expense of gracious living. And Clayton, I think, did a pretty nice job of imagining how these spaces can still be light-filled and feel spacious. I like to say square footage poor, space rich.
And that's not a photograph.
Yeah, that's a rendering.
students have done all these renderings.
Yeah, yeah, oh, these are all student produced, yeah. And, you know, when you cluster housing, you have to be aware of privacy and security, and so there's design strategies for doing that, so that you can have these engaged spaces without feeling like your security or privacy are being invaded, right? You know, we all know, we've all lived in big cities, maybe, and that's a very important design consideration as well. Universal design, making sure there's units that allow physically handicapped residents or their guests, right, to use their units without restrictions. Right? It's kind of what we call universal design. And then we looked at, and we'll document resilient materials. You know, houses should be constructed with flood and moisture resilient materials. A lot of cementitious board, different types of building insulation and sheathing and so forth can really help to mitigate flood and building in flood-prone areas, as well as, of course, rising above, building above the freeboard level. Energy and sustainability is, of course, crucial to a sustainable future, and our built environment is crucial, absolutely crucial to that. Minimize embodied energy of materials and maintenance, safe and healthy materials and finishes, and incorporate life cycle, cost-effective passive and active sustainability systems. We'll be including that in the report as well. And also conventional materials and assemblies. Right? Affordable and cost-effectively maintained homes should use conventional materials and construction methods, right? Reduces construction costs, but it also, if these are home ownership, it allows the owners to repair, right, the inevitable repairs of their property without having to go to a specialist, right? You know, have to really figure it out, right? Or have a lot of expense in doing that. And then lastly, I would say that. Make it beautiful.
Make it beautiful.
Right?
Yes.
Beautiful community, and let's do some beautiful planning and architecture. So just, again, we hope the report and research and the design resources on the website that we've been building out during the semester will assist your efforts to revitalize Duffyfield. We hope it provides materials, and we really will recommend this, to re-engage with the community. This was not a community engagement project. The way the project was set up was, it was already, the community engagement was really substantially done in the studies that preceded this. But we hope that our materials will help assist you in re-engaging with the community and saying, well, here's a playbook, which one do you like, right? What types of house styles you like, and so forth. And also to effectively work with housing development, which I know is part of the plan in redevelopment Duffyfield. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Housing matters. Make it beautiful. Ah, I love it. I could do that all night now.
Can we have the link to the website, or is that something you can give us in our meeting?
Oh, hey, click one more, man. Oops, nope, the other way. There you go.
Yep. And we will also ask Colleen to put it on our website when they get us the final report. And we can put this one up there, and then you get the final report.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all public information.
All right.
Please make use of it in any way that would be helpful.
Great job, thank you, thank you. Thinking outside the box. I'm very familiar with Tightline. They do a very, very good job.
Oh, you know their work, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's great. They've done a lot of work on the eastern part of the state.
Yes,
Yeah, David's terrific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, wow. Okay.
For the commission's benefit, one of the students chose First Avenue, the property we own and acquired from Mr. Allen, to develop in their neighborhood, so that we have an actual plan from one of their students for that First Avenue property, the entirety of it, housing, landscaping, and everything. So it wasn't shown tonight, but that's of great interest for everybody to take a look at.
We've got a lot more work to share with you.
Yeah.
We had only limited time today.
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate that. I know I'm biased as an NC State College of Architecture graduate, but I am really impressed with the thoughtfulness that the students
Yes.
put into this project. We've also received some work from design professionals that I think the students have given it a very good run.
Yes.
So thank you for presenting that to us tonight.
Thank you so much.
And
for your
coming from a pirate. Coming from a pirate, I would say, them work with NC State. I just left there today. Y'all had the early college summit at McKinney Center. Just drove from NC State.
Fantastic, yeah.
Y'all had the Keenan Fellows program that's booming. The Deadly Flood Center is booming. The NELA program with Dr. Fonzarelli is booming. And now I get to see the engineering, architectural side of it. I just want to say salute. I'm impressed.
Yes.
I mean, and please give the students my regard.
Yes.
I will do so.
Thank you.
We're very proud of our university, and
Yes.
and I'm always very, very proud of my students.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, everybody should have just went around the room and said, Tar Heel, the Flames, the Trojans.
Barry always started something.
I said Tar Heels, I said it.
I'm gonna stay out of that one.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, commissioners, we have 5, 7, 8, and 9 to go. So let us go back to 5, and this is the way that we will do that. I will ask staff member Ms. Fillmore to give us an update on Eubank Street, and then we will do the update on health and wellness and housing. Okay? All right, Ms. Moore, Eubank Street.
I'll be very brief. Okay, put the microphone.
I would hate to corrupt your file.
Hello. I'll be brief. The bid package is currently still being prepared by Urban Design Ventures. That's the only update they provided. They need more time packaging that rebound.
We'll be in touch. Oh yeah, where's that?
Okay.
That's nice.
That property is, it is secured, but if y'all hear any rumblings or anything from the neighborhood, if you would let us know. But it should be secured. And it shouldn't be anything going on there. Everything should be boarded up. It should be where it is. But like I said, if anybody hears anything different, if you let somebody know, and we get Mr. Williams to a nuisance abatement, somebody to go by there and make sure that it stays boarded up until we can get that done.
That's the house we moved over there?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Because it's our responsibility until we get to moving on. Okay, Health and Wellness Commissioner Wallace.
All right. I'll definitely be brief. I just want to start out this report with another thanks to the Board of Aldermen. They are awesome. At the last meeting, we did a review. But I would say the next steps, we're going to be planning next steps. My first time at the Hale, but we are extremely busy on this commission, but it's hard to get people together. But once we secure the funding, we definitely go into articulation about the building construction plan. I definitely want to amend our partner list. I'm sad that we're going so late. I wanted him to hear, but it was not. We did not mean to omit Habitat from. He's more on the housing part of it. But since they want to be included, we will include them as partners in our next submission.
That is correct.
And then the big planning phase, after we secure funding and get the architectural and get moving on the building of the site, we're going to be intentional and extremely serious and diligent regarding the operational planning for the new health center and then the sustainability of that human capital within the health, the new health center. And last but not least, I still have to talk to Mr. Marvin. I want him to go with me, and I don't know if this needs to come to a vote, but we want to go back into articulation with the gentleman with the properties that are adjacent to the center.
Yes,
so
we're going to talk
about
it in closed session.
Closed session, okay.
Yes.
That's it.
All right, thank you so much for all the work that you did. You certainly got a lot of work done since you've taken over the helm. We appreciate the previous, but we're moving on and we need to keep going. So please let us know how we can help, and we certainly appreciate the Board of Aldermen as well, and welcome any partners that's gonna help in this work. Nobody can do it alone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair Pro told Moses, cannot do it alone. Yep. Okay, our housing working group.
Yeah, we've been looking at some of the requests to purchase property, and we've had that discussion earlier, and we have the need, and we talked last time, to develop protocols for dealing with that issue when it arises. And we have been blessed by having an aggressive attorney represent us, and she has prepared for us drafts of policies for purchasing city and county-owned properties and purchasing just Development Commission-owned properties. And also, she has prepared a sample operative purchase contract for our properties. So I'm going to pass this out to everybody.
Give me a hand now. I have copies. I have one.
You have one? Okay. And what we would like to do is get these in everybody's hands and have this come up at our next meeting for approval of these protocols that we can follow, so that it will help not only us, but it will also help potential purchasers of property understand the process. And I think it's a great thing. They're well done. We don't have to worry about the legal aspect of it. And
You would like a copy? You want to give it out? Or is that strictly for board?
this is a draft. I don't.
They're public documents.
They're public documents. Okay. Have one. So, take this home, read it. You will also need to make sure that the members who are absent this evening get copies of this, because we do want to address this at our next meeting.
Okay. Correct. And he will be setting up a housing working group meeting, because we need to take up Mr. Benjamin's as well, which are all of that. Okay. All right. Mr. Morgan is not here, but I know he's working with Mr. Williams regarding neighborhood cleanups and things. And so we will hear from him next month. They should be getting ready to do that very soon. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Item 7, adopt a resolution for the demolition of 721 First Avenue. Did we get figures from what's the George Showers? Who was in charge of public?
Not that I know of, no.
I haven't sent them over yet. Okay.
Al Cablé.
Al Cablé, C-A-B-L. The other ones, oftentimes it's also our own minimum housing officer who gets those as well.
We'll get that figures before we can adopt the resolution. Figures were supposed to be over. Okay, we need to follow up with him too.
So, Madam Chair, if agenda item number 7 is not going to be addressed tonight, you should entertain a motion to continue that agenda item to your next regular meeting in July.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
You didn't have any information on it, did you? Demolition. Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. Okay, come back, that one's continued.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Item 8 is a discussion of the liability insurance. We need to get liability on our properties. Mr. Williams had gotten some information from Jeff Quinn. It's not Skylar's Insurance anymore. What is it called now?
SAI.
SAI, okay. All right. And then we're supposed to check too with Robinson's step.
Right, we have not heard back from Robinson, Mr. Robinson yet.
Okay, I saw that he...
We did send them information about the properties, but...
Okay. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we inquire. So it is $500
For the liability insurance for all the properties, I think it was 57, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
It's right at $680 per year for just the liability, but there's some structures on some of them, so he said he doesn't have it firm, but he said he doesn't anticipate it being more than $2,500 annually for the structures and the properties all inclusive.
Okay. All right. Any questions concerning? We need to move on.
What,
Go ahead.
that's liability insurance. What about something such as E&O insurance for the commission members?
All he was looking at.
I mean, is that something we need to be concerned about? Since we're not covered under any city policy.
Well, I have his name and contacts of whatever insurance that the commission will be interested in. He'll be more than happy to assist with it. So.
Yeah, he's talking about board and officers insurance, where you usually have when you sit on the board. Okay, well, we can have him do that later, but we need to deal with this. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna ask what did the city attorney have to say about insurance, about us? The question came up.
Well, that is a good question, Mr. Paraguay. I had not considered that before you mentioned it. So long as you're acting within the scope of your duties, you're not personally liable. However, if you're interested in getting a quote for that type of insurance policy, you can direct staff to gather that information for your consideration.
It's just a matter of whether it's reasonable for us to be covered under some type of personal liabilities for actions we take as a board. I mean, I don't know what the issue is with the city, but we're not covered by the city under any way, shape, or form. Such as, what are the aldermen? Are they covered for liability, personal liability? And other members, planning and zoning board?
I'm not aware of any other citizen board having that type of insurance. However, if you'd like us to gather that information and present it to you and give you a cost estimate, if you're inclined to adopt that type of policy, staff certainly can do that.
Commissioners?
Yeah, research and found out.
Okay, all right, Steph. Okay, going back to the liability, voting to have Mr. Williams continue with that, staff to continue with that and get that insurance for that. Both the liability and the structures made sense, because anything can happen, and $2,500, $2,600 is really not a lot of funds.
Are we waiting on another quote?
Well, but we didn't get it.
No,
yet.
we didn't get it from state. We just wanted to make sure we reached out to someone else. I don't see it being any different.
Okay.
So the other issue might be, do we have an idea when the current insurance for the properties ends? Does it end at the end of the fiscal year,